Have you ever just stopped and wondered how we got from, a simple sharpened rock to an artificial intelligence that can literally write a symphony? Well, that's what we're diving into. It's one of the greatest stories ever told. Our epic journey with the things we create. You know, it all really starts with this one simple question, probably first asked millions of years ago around some ancient fire. Can this be easier? Seriously, every single machine, from a wheelbarrow to a supercomputer, is an answer to that fundamental human urge. That question, it's what changed our destiny forever. So our story kicks off about 2.5 million years ago. Imagine this, an early human picks up a stone, chips it just right to make an edge, and in that one moment they create the world's very first machine, a tool designed to amplify the power of their own hand. I mean, can you imagine bringing that first inventor to our time? You show them our world of robotics and AI, and they'd probably say something just like this. They couldn't possibly have known that a simple tool to make hunting a bit easier would kick off a chain reaction that would completely reshape the entire planet. And then came the wheel. Look, it's almost impossible to overstate this thing. The wheel meant freedom of movement. It meant trade. It meant transport. You could argue it was the very axle on which civilization itself began to turn, a total game changer. Okay, so let's jump forward thousands of years. Cities are rising, civilizations are forming, and we're not just making basic tools anymore. We're starting to build really complex machines, and crucially, understand the principles behind them. This is the era of the first true engineering minds. And that brings us to incredible figures like Archimedes. Now, this guy wasn't just using mechanics, he was one of the first people to truly understand them. He designed these amazing defensive war machines, the Archimedes screw for moving water. He really saw the invisible forces that govern our world. And this quote, this just perfectly shows how deep his understanding went. This isn't just some poetic boast. No, it's a literal description of how leverage works. He knew, mathematically, that with the right fulcrum and a long enough lever, the smallest force could move the biggest object. He understood the physics of power. Now, here's a name you might not know, but you absolutely should. Heron of Alexandria. He created this device right here, the Aeolipile. It was basically a hollow sphere that spun around, powered by jets of steam. Let that sink in for a second. 1,800 years before the Industrial Revolution, Heron built the world's first steam engine, and the wildest part? He just saw it as a cool toy, a marvel for temples, not the world-changing power source it would one day become. So as Europe was going through the Middle Ages, the Islamic Golden Age was just exploding with innovation, and that's where we meet Al-Jazari. This man was an absolute genius. His book on mechanical devices was filled with these incredibly detailed plans for pumps, clocks, and especially automata, which were essentially the conceptual groundwork for modern robotics. But what's really amazing is his philosophy. Al-Jazari wrote this centuries and centuries ago, and yet it perfectly defines why we build robots today. Machines should extend what we're capable of. They should do the tasks that are too hard, too dangerous, or just too boring for a person to do. And then, of course, there's Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, if history was a movie, he's the character who looks like he time-traveled from the future. His private notebooks were just packed with these concepts that were centuries ahead of their time. Helicopter designs, the first tank, movable bridges. His mind was just operating in a completely different century. The problem was, all these ideas were trapped on paper, just waiting for a new source of power to make them real. And now, that power finally arrives. Everything starts to accelerate like crazy as we enter the era of harnessed energy, first steam and then electricity. This wasn't just another invention. This was a fundamental shift that changed everything, forever. Just listen to this quote from a worker back in the Industrial Revolution. It really captures the sheer shock of that moment. For the first time in history, power didn't come from a muscle or the wind or water. It was coming from inside a machine. It must have felt like watching iron literally come to life. But look closer at this timeline. It's not just about the inventions themselves. It's about the time between them. See how the gaps are getting smaller and smaller? A whole century separates Watt's engine from Edison's light bulb. But from the light bulb to Tesla's AC motor, less than a decade. Innovation was starting to feed on itself, accelerating exponentially. So up to this point, machines were all about physical labor, moving things, building things. But then, in the 20th century, a brand new kind of machine started to appear, one that didn't move matter, but manipulated information. A machine that could, in a very real way, think.
This is the question. Posed by the brilliant Alan Turing, this question basically gave birth to the digital world as we know it. Can machines think? It completely shifted the goal of engineering. Suddenly, the challenge wasn't just to build stronger machines, it was to build smarter ones. This question is the philosophical launchpad for all of computer science and AI.
And after World War II, this elegant answer showed up, the von Neumann architecture. You can think of it like a human brain. You've got a processor that does the thinking, memory that stores information, and then input and output, kind of like your senses and your voice. That basic, simple design is still at the heart of pretty much every computer you use today, from your laptop to your smartphone. Which brings us to right now. We have officially arrived in an era that used to be pure science fiction. The latest evolution of the machine is one that doesn't just follow instructions, but can actually learn and adapt all on its own. The line between a tool that we use and a collaborator that we work with is getting seriously blurry. This quote from a scientist today just nails the paradigm shift perfectly. For most of history, we programmed machines. We gave them the rulebook. Now, with machine learning, we just give them the data, the entire library, and they figure out the rules for themselves. And sometimes they find patterns and solutions that no human had ever even thought of. I mean, just think about where this journey has taken us today. We have robot-assisted surgery with superhuman precision. We have cars that drive themselves. We have AI that composes music and creates art. We are living in a world our ancestors would have absolutely called magic. No question. And so, that leaves us with the ultimate question of our time, doesn't it? From that first sharpened stone to a machine that thinks, this has been the path. The answer isn't simple, but maybe. Maybe the question isn't about replacement. Perhaps machines aren't the end of the human story, but just the next, most incredible chapter. A reflection of our own minds, taken to a place we can't even imagine yet. The journey, well, it's far from over.